Hello.
How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good too. Thanks for joining me. Do
Oh, yes, of course.
you want to just get started?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay, so take me back to the very beginning of your CHD journey and how you got diagnosed and that sort of time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I wasn't born. They were able to find it in my mother's pregnancy. Um, I wish I knew how far along she was. I'm bad with numbers and specifics.
I know over here
But
it would be around the 20-week scan. So it's like halfway.
okay,
That's what it would be
that's
over
that's
here.
probably that's probably about yeah, that's probably about what it would have been then. But yeah, so they basically were just like, there's something wrong with his heart. Obviously, we'll watch it. They didn't exactly know what it was yet. They kind of thought I had Down syndrome, but then obviously they were like, oh no, it's the heart. So yeah, so they watched it for a bit, and then once they kind of were able to figure out more of what it was, they basically gave my parents the option to abort me or if they wanted to go through with it, because they were like, he's only going to have 24 hours if he even is born alive. So they were like, do you even want to chance that or not?
Yeah.
So my parents said, let's do it. Let's just do it. So then I was born, and my family took family pictures in the
Oh
hospital
yeah, yeah.
the
We all
first
have
day
some
I
of
was born.
them.
Yep.
Just in case
So that's
photos.
kind of the beginning. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what is your condition exactly? And give me a little explanation,
Yeah. So
please.
I have hypoplastic right heart syndrome. Again, you think I would know specifics, but they tell me stuff, and I'm just like, that
Goes in
is
one ear and straight out the
confusing.
other.
Yeah, pretty much. But so my heart's on this side of my body.
Okay.
It's it's backwards, so it beats that way, not this way.
Okay.
um, I was not born with a pulmonary artery. Um, something about ASD and BSD. Again, you think I would know, but they've done so much since, so it's changed since I was
Yeah.
born. But
Okay.
that's the gist of what I was born with.
I'm assuming you've had surgeries and stuff then to help not fix
Oh
it, but
yes.
like manage it. Do you mind talking me
Yeah.
through them
Mm-hmm.
and what they were, or like ages and stuff you got them at?
Yeah, so I believe my first big surgery, I want to say it was like 3 days old, maybe. But I've had three open heart, two closed, obviously many catheters
Yeah.
to check stuff.
Yeah.
The most recent one I've had, it was called a melody valve. That was, oh gosh, like 6 years ago. I want to say I'm getting old. um, I had one when I was 13. I don't know what that one was technically called, but what they did was made me a pulmonary artery out of a cow's vein.
Okay.
So I joke and say I am part cow. I am
Well,
one
it's
with the
always a
cows.
conversation starter.
Oh yeah. Yes. But otherwise, I didn't have the Fontan. I never had the Fontan done. I know
Oh,
that's
really?
one
Okay.
a
Yeah,
lot
that's
of
what I have.
people, yeah, yeah. A lot of people say like, oh, when did you have it? And I didn't have that one because at the time, at least my cardiologist said we could do it, but it's not going to help him long term. So
Okay.
they were like, let's just ignore it. Um, I'm not sure what I had in place of that. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You'd
It's
think I'd
fine.
be way more prepared.
It's fine.
but that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. See, I never, like, my last surgery was when I was 5. So that was like 13 years ago. Like, that was a
Yeah.
long time ago. Whereas you were saying that you've actually had surgeries like older. What's that like? Because you're a lot more aware than you are when you're 3 days old or
Yeah.
6 months old.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So, I mean, growing up, I mean, okay, so for the first like big major ones I had, obviously I was too young to really remember. The first big one that I remember was when they did the cow's jugular vein. I was again like 12, 13. I was in grade 7 of school then.
Well,
Anyway, so
sorry, I'm trying to
that
work out what that is over here.
I know, I know.
Like,
I'm
that's not
like trying
second
to
year of
say
high
it in
school?
your terms. Yeah, yeah. So, well, it's for us, we'd call it like middle
Middle
school,
school, yeah.
basically.
Yeah, we just jumped straight into high school.
But yeah, so my first biggest one that I remember was that one. I do remember having some like catheters done, and that was like the biggest thing for me at the time.
Yeah.
So the that one, so I live in Utah, but we went to where I usually have my surgeries done and whatever. And the day before it was supposed to happen, we were doing like tests and whatever. We did an MRI, and basically the surgeon there decided he couldn't do it. He's like, "This, your body's too complicated. I don't think it's gonna work." Um, so we packed up and left, and we're like, obviously called the cardiologist again. We're like, "What do we do? Like, we're supposed to have this tomorrow, and now you just sent us home." So we went to California. We went to UCLA, California to have it done. The
Oh, okay. That's
sir
far.
there, his name was Dr. Lax. He was the one that actually created the surgery that I needed. Yeah, it was it was a 6-hour drive from where I live to California.
Okay.
So that's that. Yeah, it was crazy. We went like a month ahead because obviously we had to go meet him
Yeah.
and meet his team. So we did that, and then we went back and had the actual surgery done. And I can definitely say that's like one of the mornings I will never forget, because it's like, for me, I didn't specifically know what to expect still, even though
Yeah.
I had surgeries. I didn't remember the big ones. So yeah, we went early in the morning, obviously got ready. It's kind of funny. They like brought me an iPad. They were like, "Okay, just relax. You're all of a sudden gonna fall asleep." And I'm like, "Okay."
Okay.
So yeah, I was last thing I remember was trying to do some like puzzle game on an iPad, and all of a sudden I'm out. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
So that surgery lasted like 8.5 hours. And then I didn't like fully wake up, because like, you kind of wake up, go back out, wake
Yeah.
up, but I
Yeah.
didn't
You're in and
fully
out for
come
a
back
while.
into consciousness
Mm-hmm.
for a whole week. So I say
Oh,
I
okay.
lost a week of my life sleeping.
Okay. Well, I mean, time well spent.
I obviously I mean, at least I was resting. But I remember bits and pieces, like I remember my brother came and visited. But like I just remember seeing him, but I don't remember anything that we did or anything. I remember my grandparents came. Yeah, it's just like little bits and pieces, but I wasn't fully aware again for a week later. So
I always
um
remember, like, in that stage between coming fully back and like post op, I always remember just waking up and then asking to have food, but you know when you're not like allowed food that quick,
mhm.
and just being like fed little tiny ice cubes for like a
Yeah.
day. That's all I remember. It's a dark room and ice cubes.
Yeah, I always ask for Sprite because you can't have like you know, it has to be a clear liquid,
Mm-hmm.
but I want something that will settle my stomach. So I'm always like,
Yeah.
Sprite. So now anytime I have Sprite, but it's a very specific Sprite. Like it's not the one you just get out of the bottle or something or a can, well, or anything. But it's like the fountain Sprite, you know, that you put your cup in and like push the button to pour it out.
Yes.
Uh,
Like Subway Sprite.
that's yeah, basically that is the Sprite that reminds me of like the hospital and everything. But
Yeah. So little things.
yes.
Okay, so you've grown up with CHD, obviously. Um, can you tell me like how it was? How do you think, like basically how your life differed from your peers and your friends?
I mean, there's a lot of activities I didn't get to partake in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was necessarily disappointed. I mean, there were some in the moment I was like, but like I just kind of knew I couldn't, and so I didn't expect to be able to. So I wasn't like let down, you know.
Yeah.
But I have to say I was really, really blessed with amazing friends that would always like I would let them go do whatever they wanted. Like, you know, I wasn't gonna be like, no, you can't go do that because I can't, you know,
Yeah.
but like they would always go do the thing that they wanted and then be like, okay, now let's all go do something that he can do.
Yeah.
But like,
Like,
you know, I never was able to ride a bike. I never was able to learn how to ride a bike, so I never got a ride with my friends. I've never done like the whole haunted house, haunted corn maze stuff.
All that stuff doesn't interest
Roller
me
coasters.
anyway.
Me neither. It doesn't mean either. So I was just like, cool, have fun. I don't care.
Are you like
Amusement parks?
yeah? Do you
What?
like go to amusement parks and then only go on the kids' rides? Or do you like
Yep.
not?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't like amusement parks because I'm like I can't go on half the rides.
Yeah, I'm like that too. Like there's this big amusement park up at the beach where I am, and like
Mhm.
every summer it's like the place to be. Always has to
Yeah.
be. And I'm like the only person that doesn't see the attraction. Because I'm like
Mhm.
all I can go on is like the spinning teacups and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's like we're relatively close to Disneyland. Again, it's like a 6-hour drive, but
Relatively close.
relatively close. Like we can drive there if we really wanted. But, you know, so a lot of people from where I live go to Disneyland, you know, because
Yeah.
it's accessible, but uh I'm always just like, you guys go.
So physical activity. I know you said in your YouTube video that about it. Could you expand more now again, please? Like how you dealt with that?
Yeah. So I guess, like something I've always wanted to do is play basketball, but I've never had the energy to do it. But like physical ed, you know, like PE in school, I would take part in, but obviously they knew my condition, so I'd
Yeah.
always do alternatives or something.
Yeah.
You know, I never like ran the mile or whatever, but
I walked mine.
it's I didn't even do mine. He let me time everybody.
No, the scary thing for mine was I walked mine and I still wasn't even last.
Oh, okay, good job.
Like that's how bad some of the people in my year were. Like,
but like I don't know, you know, it's like I can't just go out for a jog. I can go for a walk, but there's just like some, I feel like very simple physical activities that, you know, people are like, let's hurry and go do, and I'm like, I can't.
yeah, that's
You know.
tiring for me.
And like, I mean, my siblings, like we grew up with a trampoline, and we go out and play, but like they knew what was too much for me, you know. So we just kind of like go out and boingy boingy. Then once I got off, you know, they were like, okay, let's do the crazy stuff.
Yeah, we don't have to be careful anymore.
Yeah. So, you know, and like going swimming, I hate to go underwater because that's like the same feeling to me as going down for surgery.
Okay.
And so like I don't love to swim. I like to wade in the pool, but I don't like to swim. So
Fair enough.
I had a really, really different high school experience because I was in heart failure in high school. And so like I was, it's kind of sad. I was like so well known in my school because of my heart failure that like everybody just knew, and like I was in a wheelchair because I didn't have the energy to walk from class to class. And like I would just be like pushing my wheelchair, and all of a sudden someone would just start pushing me, be like, "What class are you going to?" And I'm like, so yeah, that was my experience. People were just like randomly helping me, which
Well, that's
at the
nice.
time, like, I mean, it was super nice, but at the time, it made me feel so like not independent. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
independent. I couldn't get myself from class to class. So
Hmm.
me and that wheelchair had a love-hate relationship. Now, if it was today, give me that wheelchair. I want it.
Let somebody else do all the work for me, please.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, why did I not appreciate it then? But it's just because I was growing up and wanted to be independent.
Yeah. I totally get what you mean. Moving on from school life and that sort of time, you're a bit older than me. So, what has like adult life been like? Like, do you work or did you go like uni, like college or some stuff? Like, how was all that?
So I have worked for, oh gosh, again, I'm getting old. Let's see. This will be my 7th year working technically. Um, so I work at a craft store called Michael's here. Um, I've worked there for 7 years. My mom has worked there for so long. We're like best friends with the managers there. They're like my aunt and whatever. But I've worked there for 7 years, and well, when I started, obviously I just kind of started. But then shortly after, I went into heart failure once I started, and so like when I started there, basically what I would do is, help the customers that needed help. I do what's called recovery, which is basically just going around the store and cleaning it up, putting stuff
Okay.
back to where they need to be and whatever. So once I went into heart failure, my manager put me on the cash register, so I didn't have to walk around.
Yeah.
I could just ring people up. Um, and then obviously once I got out of heart failure, then we did other stuff and whatever. But I'm still working there. I'm just doing early mornings now, so I don't have to be there when customers are there. Um, I'm like, I'm loving it. I'm like, I don't have to deal
Is
with
that
people.
like because
But
of COVID or what? So that you're like in less
yeah,
contact? Yeah.
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 My main job, I guess you could say, is I nanny for my sister.
Okay.
So I do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is when I go to Michael's in the mornings. And then obviously all my YouTube and podcast and everything else and stuff.
It's in
So
between.
yeah. So I mean, in that sense, like every holiday season, uh, like at Michael's, I would work so many hours because it just got super busy and whatever. But every holiday season, I would get sick because I'd overwork myself.
Yeah, you're just
This
so
past
tired.
holiday season, since I wasn't working, yeah, this past holiday season, since I wasn't working there like normal, I guess you could say,
Mm.
I didn't get sick. This was like the first time in 6 years I didn't get sick over the holiday season,
That was like
and
me too.
so like unfortunately, that just kind of like that's a little hard for me. Otherwise, I tried going to college for a whole one semester, and just it's just not for me. I don't school. And yet what's funny is all my life, and I still to this day want to be a teacher. I want to be a teacher. I just cannot do the schooling for it.
Um. Okay, so I'd mentioned your YouTube video there, which I watched previous to this.
Okay.
You had mentioned something that I've actually never thought of before, but whenever you're like in school or whatever and you're like watching videos and stuff of like surgeries or like that type of stuff, you said it's almost like a PTSD style feeling.
Yeah.
Could you expand on that? Because that's something that I've never thought of before. Like, I've always just been okay about it.
Mhm.
Like, I enjoy watching those things, which I don't
Yeah.
think is right either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the one that I brought up in the video, I was in high school, and it was when I was in heart failure. And so, it was even
Even
worse
more
at the time
emotion.
because my
Yeah.
mind wasn't even, yeah. I was in I want to say I was in a psychology class. It could have been health. I had the same for both those classes, so I don't know which one it was, health or psychology. Anyways, we were watching this operation video. I don't even know what it was for, what it was about, because I didn't pay attention, clearly. And, obviously she told us what we were going to watch. And so I thought I was, being all sly and like, I'm going to keep my head up, but close my eyes, like,
Yeah.
so I'm watching, but, whatever. Uh, but still the sounds triggered me so bad. So it, because of all the murmuring and the beeping of the machines, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I am living this, like.
Yeah.
And so I got like super lightheaded, I got nauseous, I had to put my head down. The teacher came up and was like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I am not. I'm like, I need to just not watch this. And she's like, have you eaten anything today? And I'm like, that is not the problem, but um so there was a kid like behind me or something, and of course kids got to make stupid comments, but he was like, it wasn't even that bad. And I didn't say anything, but in my head I'm like, okay, but if you have lived that,
Yeah. Or if you've
like,
known somebody that's gone through that, you would be like,
yeah, I'm like, it's very like, I it was just too much for me. And so yeah, it's just weird. Like I can't watch any medical stuff. Like I can't watch any medical TV shows. I can't I well when we got the MRI done for that surgery that they decided they weren't going to do, so we had to go to California. They were showing us like the footage and stuff that they found from the MRI. It was black and white, but it still made me sick. I was like, can't watch
oh,
that.
okay.
So I don't know. I am so weak with that kind of stuff.
Well, no, it's not that you're weak. It's just like how, like, I'm sure there's other people out there that think the same.
Mhm.
Like, we've all, probably as well, because you've been through more operations older on, you like you remember it, whereas I haven't, so I don't even have an idea.
Yeah.
I just remember going into the lift, going to sleep, and then waking back up in my room.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember anything else that was going on. You also mentioned in your YouTube video about possibly having to get a heart transplant in the future.
Yes.
And I know that's a possibility for all of us, but you've actually not like being directly told it, but it has sort of been
Mhm.
put in to the air. Could you do you mind like giving me your thoughts on that and like what
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
that felt
I
like?
I promise you, I'm very open, so it's fine. So when I was in heart failure in high school, so I've gone into heart failure twice in my life, but the most recent was in high school. So that time, they thought we were going to do a heart transplant. They thought that's what we needed to do at this point. So I started doing what they call a 100 blood cell test. But that sounds a little wrong. Basically, they like have to take my blood so many times to help find a match for a heart.
Okay.
So we started doing that because we thought that was the route we're going. We didn't get put on a list yet because as soon as we're put on a list, we have to be a certain mile radius from the hospital or in the hospital.
Oh, okay.
But I was trying to graduate high school, that was our goal, was can I at least graduate high school so that I don't, once we figure out my medical stuff, be like, oh crap, now I gotta like, I'm 20 and gotta make up my high school stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we started the blood test. We were like, if you can start to figure out what we need, then that'll give us kind of a jump start for when we really have to do
Yeah.
it. So I was finishing up school Having all the ordeals of that was one of the darkest and most emotional times of my life, because it was like the first time that I really like was blatantly told, oh, you could die, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, great. I'm trying to finish high school, trying to have a social life, trying to live, you know?
Essentially,
So it
yes.
was that like year and a half of my life was like the craziest time of my life so far. Which is so funny because it's like, just thinking back, I'm like, I'm only 23. I still have so much more to go.
Yeah.
And I've already had this crazy life experience. Luckily, I had amazing teachers. I had one teacher that pulled me aside one day. She was my math teacher, and she's like, she has had operations and stuff, not on her heart, but like other medical stuff. And so she pulled me aside and she's like, listen, I know like you're going through stuff, you know, obviously we had to tell the teachers, so they
Yeah.
knew. But she's like, you're doing all the work for you know, the homework and everything. And well, okay, did you know, so when you have lower oxygen saturation, your brain doesn't function correctly.
Okay.
And so like, so doing my schoolwork, I didn't understand it. Like, I was learning it and trying to do it, but I just didn't have full brain capacity
Yeah.
to understand it. And so that's, my math teacher was like, you're doing the work and I just know it, you're just not able to understand it. So she's like, what I'm going to do, if you agree, she's like, I'm going to put your grade as passing. So that doesn't mean you fail, but you also don't like get an A. It just means you have passed my class, so you get the credit for this class.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, bless. So, you know, I had teachers like that were
Yeah.
like,
That gets a wee weight off your shoulders that you've at least
yeah,
got that subject down or something.
I mean, obviously I'd still do the work, you know, but
Yeah, try your
I
best.
I just wouldn't have to worry about like, oh crap, I'm failing this because I'm not understanding it, you know. So anyway, um then about, it was like between 6 months and a year after it was initially like, oh, you're in a heart failure. My cardiologist called and he was like, I've researched this new operation and it's newer. It's not like brand new, but it's still only a few select in the US have had it done. It's called a melody valve. And so basically what it is it's almost like a filter that they put in. And so like it opens and closes. So okay, here's how all this happened. I'm sorry, I'm going on side stories.
No, it's fine.
So I had the caljugular vein put into me, acting as a pulmonary artery. Okay, that was when I was like 12. So within that surgery, they tied a little string to a hole in my heart. Then they put a little tube down at the bottom of my chest and tied the string to that. So if they ever had to adjust that hole, they wouldn't have to open me all the way up. They can just kind of go through a catheter and adjust the tube position. You know, so again, it would be less major of a surgery. Well, about a month after that surgery was done, my body was allergic to the tube material that they put in.
Oh.
So we had to go back and get that taken out. So then that meant that that string was just floating around doing its own thing.
Yeah.
So the hole just opened up because it had nothing holding it. And so all the blood was just going through that hole and not dispersing. So that's why I went into heart failure again. So what they did was made that filter, the melody valve as they call it, and put it into that hole so it opens and closes as needed. So that way all the blood isn't just going through that hole. So that they told us that's supposed to last about 10 years. Again, it's been like 5 or 6 years now since I've had that.
Okay.
So they basically said, well, originally they said we could put in another one after it decides to be done. I'm not sure if that's still standing. You know, we haven't really talked about that, but they check that whenever I go for appointments, my regular appointments, we do an ultrasound and they always immediately go check the cow jugular vein that they put in and check the melody valve. So that's what they did for me when I was in high school. Did the Melody valve, and luckily that one they could just do through a catheter, so they didn't have to open me up for that one.
Okay.
So then so then I was like, okay, we're good. It got me out of heart failure. I felt a lot better, blah blah. Was able to graduate high school, all this and that. I'm doing fine right now. I feel okay too, but I just need to be aware that it's like, unfortunately, I've reached the peak, and so I'm going to go down, but we're not going fast. We're going at this
it's like
little steady decline. Yeah. And so, we just have to watch it and be aware. But again, we don't want to put me on the list until it's the absolute next step to do, because again, I could be waiting a month, a week, 6 months, a year, but we have to be within the vicinity of the hospital. So, so that's where we're at with that.
So, back into 2020 and, well, still 2021, it's carried over into the lovely COVID. And it's so, what's it been like over there? I know I've heard stories, but like, have you been shielding and stuff, or what?
We're the laughing stock of the world.
I'm trying not to say that, but yeah.
No, I will say it. I will say it. Don't you
America
worry.
and the UK are both not doing themselves any favors.
Yeah. So when it started, basically our president tried to start like a lockdown, but then America was like, freedom, you can't do that to us.
Yeah.
And so he was like, fine, then I'm leaving it to the governors to do what they want, so every state has a governor.
Mm-hmm.
And so he basically said, so he basically said, your governors get to decide what they're going to do depending on the cases in your state. And so like a few states actually went into lockdown. Some are still, like California is still in lockdown. But Utah is the pinnacle of anti-maskers, let me tell you. But so we've had protests, we've had riots. It's, oh my gosh, I'm just like, whatever. So starting in like March, the end of March, I decided I wasn't going to go back to work because again, I work with the public. So I was like, I'm not going to go right now.
Yeah.
So I stayed home until about July. And then unfortunately our district manager, Michael, said anyone who hasn't come back that decided to, shield themselves but hasn't come back to work basically are going to be terminated. And so I had to basically make a decision. I was like, do I go back to work? Do I not? So luckily my manager is amazing. She basically was like, you know what, just come in the early mornings before we open and do the price changes, because I had already been doing the price changes, just I couldn't do them as easily because I did it when we were open. So everybody was asking me questions while I'm trying to do it,
Distracted.
Yeah. And so she was like, just come do what you were doing just in the early mornings before we're open. Just come for like 2 hours a day and whatever, more, whatever you feel, And so I was like, okay, perfect. So I started doing that, and obviously I'm still doing that. Yeah, like when we started, I stayed home like 24/7 for a few months.
Yeah.
And then my family and I do an annual camping trip. So like we did that in June, but obviously, you're out in the middle of nowhere, so we didn't see anyone,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
you kept in your wee bubble.
Yeah. And then it just kind of got to a point where it was like there's no restrictions. I mean, the only restriction still right now is wear a mask. That's all we're told.
And even then, they're not even enforcing it.
Anyway, so we were like, there's no restrictions, and so we were like, we're gonna live our life, if we're being told not to stay home anymore, I mean, obviously if we were in California, where they're locked down, then yeah, we'd still be home, because unfortunately they're a more dense place, so they're more close together. I am lucky to live here because we are more spread apart. And so, I walk outside, out of my house and I don't see anyone, I gotta drive somewhere to see someone, So, we just basically said we're just gonna, obviously just take precautions, wear a mask, use your hand sanitizer, wash your hands, everything that they say to do. But we'll just live our life and continue. So I feel bad because I mean, I'm sure Jade Marie. They're stuck in their flat, and I feel bad because I'm like, because we'll talk and we play games together, but I'm like, they're stuck there still, and yet we're living our life pretty much normal, just with masks. It definitely was a lot more different when it very first started, but now I don't any different. Start to become normal, this new normal everybody's talking about. It's starting to happen.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I have one more question to ask you. Is there any advice you wish you'd have known, or you could give to anybody else going through the same thing, or other families going through the same thing?
One of my biggest things, and it's because my parents did it to me, and I feel lucky that they did, is, I mean, it won't apply to everyone, because not everyone has siblings and stuff, but my parents never treated me different from my other siblings, so I still got grounded. I still, got in trouble, but that on another side, they also never told me I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
They let me try, and my body told me no. So, I think that's the biggest thing, is just let them live their life as much as they can, and they will figure out or you will figure out what you can and can't do, whether it be fast or slow. You have to figure that out. But I just that's my biggest thing, is never, because we already have such a different life being in the hospital so much and stuff, that when we're not in the hospital, try to make it as normal as possible, and just never limit them, never limit yourself either.
I was brought up the same, as give everything a go and not be wrapped in cotton wool, essentially. Thank you for getting up early to do that.
It's new. Well, it's 1 p.m. here. It's fine.
Oh, that's mad.
We're good here.
Mad.
It's
time difference is always blow my mind.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Yeah,
you're in the future to me.
It's 8 o'clock at night. It's dark. It's the day's over.
Is COVID gone yet? Can you tell me? Has it gone?
I don't know, but I will let you know. Although there's a high chance we will be behind on that too. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate you doing this. This is fun and cool. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and I will let you go.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.